Welcome my all viewers and listeners. Today we will discuss all about Dharampal ji. He is everybody knowing that he is a guru of Rajiv Dixit ji, and he has done a lot of work. And based on that, Rajiv Dixit ji has given us a lot of informations. Now, first of all, in his whatever books he has written, one of that is the Indian Science and Technology in the 18th Century. So in that book, he has given us a lot of information. A second volume he has written Civil Disobedience in Indian Tradition, and the third volume he has written The Beautiful Tree, Indigenous Indian Education in 18th Century. Then volume 4 it will be there, Panchayat Raj and Indian Politics. Then fifth volume, Essay on Tradition and Recovery and Freedom. So these all volumes he has written. And then first of all we will discuss about this Indian science and technology in the 15th century. So in this he has given a lot of nice information, so we will go through one by one. First, before that, we will just try to find out who is actually Dharampal ji, what all about him. We just discuss it here. He has written his in his whatever books he has written his whatever information about him, that my encounter with the amazing history work of Dharampal comes about in 1976 in our most unexpected place, our library in Holland. I was at that point investigating materials for a Ph.D. dissertations, part of which dealt with the history of India and China science of technology. So basically he was doing Ph.D. that time, and that time he got a project that he will find out about India in 18th century, how it was there. So that's why he has just gone in that library of Holland, and then he has started searching on our science, technology and all other various topics. So while there was certainly no dearth of historical material and scholarly books as far as Chinese science and technology were concerned, largely due to the work of Dr Joseph Needham, reflected in his multi-volume Science and Civilization in China. In contrast, the philosophy work on Indian science and technology seemed to be almost non-existing. What was available seemed rudimentally poor, unimaginated, and wooden, more filled with philosophies and legend than facts. So whatever it was there, he has able to find out in that books. That is mostly the work done by the Mr. Joseph Needham, and in that whatever books, it was almost like fictions only they have given. That facts are missing in that books which he found out in that library. Okay, then we'll further go, and then in that he has written that desperate and depressed, I wandered through the portal of every possible library in Holland, trying to lay my hands on anything I could find. The irony of looking for materials on India, science and technology in Holland should not be missed. However, I was doing PhD. There are had many little choice. So he was doing PhD and he's searching all the libraries out there in Holland for getting information about India. So in that scenario, whatever materials he is able to find out, he is just collectively doing all whatever research, and then slowly he is producing the things and he is noting down the things. Then one morning I walked into the Southeast Asia Institute of an Amsterdam Street and found a book called Indian Science and Technology in the 18th Century on the shelf. I took it down curiously. It was by a person named Dharampal, whom I had not heard or before as a person or scholar active in that area of research. I took that book home and devoted it in the same day. It altered many precisions of Indian forever. So he has gone to buy each book out there, and then he found out the Dharampalji books, okay, by this Cloudy, that who is making all this history, writing down all the history about this. So then he found out a lot of things in that book. A lot of things are researched, and he a lot of time he like Dharampal devoted in that book, and he has written so many things about that. So then based on that only he got information on based on that book, and then he has written a lot of things and given to us. So in that, now further what is he has written, that now more than 20 years later, I know that the book appears to have made a similarly electrifying effect on thousands of others who were fortunate to get a copy of it. It sharpened a generation of Indian which was happy to see India, whereafter quite differently from the image with which it had been taught up in the school, participating English medium schools. So whatever English medium schools and whatever schools that presently like we are sending our children's, they are giving a different view of our India, like how it was there in 18th century. But whatever written in that Dharampalji books, so it is totally different, because he found it from all different libraries, and whatever truth he got it, that he has shared in that. So in that whatever he has written, he has just mentioned it. So then further he has written that the book also provided a firm anchor for the section of my dissertations dealing with Indian science and technology. The dissertations was eventually published in 1979 with the rather academic title Romo Hapam, the Technology and Culture in India, Science and West, 1500 the present day. And this all like date he has mentioned in that, and he in that book whatever like year wise they have given the information that they have mentioned in this. Then the last year 1976, a friend of mine from Odisha dropped me in at our flat in Amsterdam. I mentioned Dharampalji to him, and then astonishing to relate, he turned out to be a friend of Dharampal and even told me where he lived. Next door, he said, in London. So he also had Dharampalji's telephone number. The following week, he took a flight to London, and I met Dharampalji for the first time in my life. His family was with him at the time. His wife, Valence, his two daughters, Geeta and Roshita, and his own son, David. These all like family members he is having that time. And still like one of our friends, they have already in contact with Sita and Roshita. They are his two daughters. Okay, the meeting initiated a relationship that has presented till the present moment. Today, I am happy to heard a publishing house that is bringing out his collected writings. So he mentioned it to their family, to Dharampalji, that I have gone through your all writing ups out there about the India. Then they all got happy that and whatever information was written in that was totally astonishing. So they have gone in that and they have discussed it with them. Then he has written that I myself returned to India in 1977. Stranger event followed thereafter. In 1980, I was called to Chennai to join a civil library team probing the killing of political activists in fake police encountered in North Arcot district in Tamil Nadu. Predictable, our team was beaten up by a mob set up by the police. On our return to Chennai, there we decided to hold a press conference. We were put up at the MLA hostel. While passing by one of the rooms, whom should I see sitting there but Dharampal myself or himself? I had to rush to the press meeting thereafter. Okay, then based on that, he has just given us information that how he has like late 1980s gone to Chennai for some investigations out there on that fake police encounters, okay, in Tamil Nadu, and then based on that he has just encountered the whatever experience, and then he has written in this. Then based on that, before the press could arrive, however, two or three young strangers arrived to meet me. They said they were from the Patriotic and People Oriented Science and Technology PPST group, which had member and sympathies in both Kanpur and Madras IIT. They wanted to sit with him and discuss my book, Homo Faber, the Indian edition that just had been brought out by Align Publishers then. They all wanted more information about Dharampal, whose work they were coming across for the first time in Homo Faber. Why do you want to talk to him? I asked them. When you can very well met Dharampal ji himself, they were astonished. Dharampal here in Madras. When I told them where I had found him, they made a beeline for the MLA hostel. So they are just talking about how they have just written, they have gone through their Dharampalji books, and how they are also in met with Dharampalji, and then later they have stayed in that MLA hostel. Okay, and then later he has written that that encounter initiated a long, fruitful and creative associations between Dharampalji and SST, which has also persisted with some up and downs at the present days. For a few years, the PPST brought out a journal called PPST Bulletin. In it, Dharampal and his work occupied pride of place. During this period, in fact, the members of PPST groups produced some of the finest articles ever written and published on the subject of Indian science and culture, technology, and relevance of Western science and technology to Indian society. So some members of the PPST later spent a considerable amount of time and energy working on the Campati data, which often recurs in Dharampal's writings. So slowly this PPST guys, what they have like done it, like in their bulletins they have given the articles of Dharampalji, and slowly all Indian peoples through these bulletins they have gone through the data which is like written by the Dharampalji in his book, and then peoples got attracted towards it because it's giving them the truth, what exactly which we are getting it from our schools, and whatever it's written in that bulletins totally in different way. So that's why they might have just gone through the attracted on that way. Okay, then today Dharampal's work is quite extinguishing known far beyond the PPST group, not just among intellectual and university professors, but also among religious leaders including Swamis and Jain monks. politicians, and activists. One of the most impressive offshoot of his research has been the organization of the biannual Congress on Traditional Science and Technology. Three such congress organized by the PPST institutions like IIT have so far been held, generating an impressive wealth of primary materials. Dharampal himself has been invited to deliver lectures at different institutions within India and abroad. So based on that, whatever PPST has given information in their bulletins about the Rampalji writings, so then different way like people's got attracted towards it, and they told they're asking for the Rampalji come there and give some lectures about that. So even though in India and even though in abroad also, so some of these lectures has been found in volume 4 of the collective writings whatever he has written. Okay, then we'll go further in that in the general effect of Dharampalji work among the public at large has been intensely liberating. However, the conventional Indian historians, particularly the class that has passed out the Oxbridge, have seen this work as a clear threat to doctrines blindly and mechanically propagated and through by them for decades. Dharampalji never trained to be an historian. If he had, he would have, like them, missed the wood for the tree. Despite having worked in the area now for more than 4 decades, he remained the quintessentially layman, almost tentative about his findings, rarely written with any flourish. Certainly, he does not manifest the kind of certainty that is readily available to individuals who have drunk unquestionably at the feet of English historians, gulping down not only their facts but their assumptions as well. So in this basically Dharampalji has given that exact truth to the peoples through his books, through his writings, so that peoples will get the truth what exactly was there the scenario when it was the 18th century when that Britishers are ruling the India. But whatever we got it in our schools, that is totally a different scenario of that story. So based on that, peoples they have differentiated it, and because and the person who are like rulers who have ruled us for 250 years, so once they have gone like not gone also, like still India is in not having in freedom and all, they are just given us a false freedom. So then whatever publishers and whatever books and whatever education system they have left it here in India, it's totally based on their whatever given facts, and that is totally almost of them all facts are wrong only, because whatever facts was there that was hidden, and even Dharampalji has just able to find out all these facts from their library, and he has put in his writtens, and based on that only peoples they got that exact information. So but to him goes to the for valuable achievement of asking well interest historian probing questions. They are hard put to answer, like how come they arrive to readily with so little evidence at the conclusion that Indians were technologically primitive, or more generally, however, they are unable to discover the historian documents that he, without similar trainings, had stumbled on so easily. So they are just saying that without giving any trainings and without giving any proper technology and all whatever assets are there, how can like Indian was there that much of high totally ahead of even any of the country right that time. So like in that he has given all that facts, so that facts we need to go through it. Okay, then Dharampalji unmaking the English generated history of Indian society has in fact created a serious enough gap to today in the discipline. The legislatum of English and colonial dominated perceptions and biased about Indian society has given grievously undermined, but the academic tradition has been unable to take up the challenges of generating an organized indigenous view to take its place. The materials for a far more authentic history of science and technology in India are indeed now available as a history of its pioneering work, but the competing scholars who can handle it all in one neat canvas has yet to arrive. One recent new work that could be mentioned in this connection is Helen Selin's Encyclopedia of Non-Western Science, Technology and Medicines, that is in Poland, which indeed take note of Dharampalji findings. Till such time as a challenge is taken up, however, we will continue to replicate uncritically in the mind of generations after generation the British sponsor view of Indian society and its institutions. How can an society survive, let alone create, on the basis of bored images of itself? So based on that, lot of other books also they had drawn that information and they have published in their books as well to their peoples, like how India was there that time in 18th century. So Dharampal's own descriptions of his initiation into English historiography is so fascinating, it must be recounted in some details. Soon after he got associated with the Quit India movement in 1942, he became attracted to the idea of the village community. Perhaps this was partly due to his being with Mirabin in a small ashram community in a rural area in the Roorkee Hardwar region from 1944 onwards. But then in 1948 he heard of the Jewish Betunkin in Palestine. This interest was invoked again and he visited them in the late 1949 for some 2 weeks. He came away from the visit, however, with the feeling that the Kizzutin model was not something that could be replicated in India. Later, along with the other friends, he did attempt to launch a small village near Rishikesh in which all families had an equal share of the land, etc. The village, however, could not mold itself into a community. It lacked homogeneity. It also had practical no resources at all when it began. Later in 1960s, Dharampal got to know of village community in Rajasthan which had B. Vishwa village, Panchayat and some Sanasa village near Jagannathpuri in Odisha, which were established some 700 years earlier and were still prosperous and functional in the early 1960s. So that time Dharampalji is he want to do it all practical, take for practical experience. So practical ground, he has just gone to the Quit India movement in 1942 and then he has just gone to the ashram in this Roorkee Haridwar in 1944 Then in late 1949 he has visited other places like in Palestine. Okay, then finally in the 1960s he just tried to develop one village and his own like community way. Okay, but he found that some other places are more better than that, so he has just tried to be a part of that ground activist, whatever he got the information in that libraries. Based on that only he is just want to participate in the ground way, that so that we how we can change the environment based on that. Okay, then has encountered which affected Dharampal ji greatly in his contest is best recounted here in his own words. So he has written it afterward whatever experience he got. Around 1916, I was traveling from Gwalior to Delhi by a day train, a 6 or 7 hours journey in a third class compartment, where I met a group of people, and I think in a way that meeting gave me a view of India, a larger India. The train was crowded. Some people, however, made a place for me, and there was this group of peoples, about 12 of them, some 3 and 4 women, 7 and 8 men. I asked them where they were coming from. They said that they had been a pilgrims 3 months long up to Rameshwaram, among other places. They come from 2 different villages north of Lucknow. They had various bundle of things, some earthen pot with them. I asked what did they have in those pots. They said that they had taken their own food from home. They had taken all the necessaries for their foods, atta, ghee, sugar with them, and some other amount of these was still left over. The woman didn't seem to mind such people trampling over them in the crowded compartment, but they feel unhappy if someone touched their bundle and pot of food with their feet. And then I said, they must all of be from one jati, from a single caste group. They said, no, no, we are not from one jati, we are from several jatis. I said, how would that be? They said, there, there was no jati on a yatra, not on a pilgrim. I don't know that. I was around 38 years old, and like many others in a country who know little about the way on the ordinary Indian, a peasant, uh, artisans, and other village folks. So basically, he just going through how once he traveled it from Gwalior to Delhi, and then he found out these peoples in that train, and out of that they are having very traditional foods with them, which they are bringing from their home. Okay, and based on that they are just informing that person, please don't put your feet near to that, and don't touch